I finally completed it. I've been talking about it for long enough. Those who've seen my videos of late know what I'm talking about here. The restoration of my 200p, my 8-inch Newtonian. Finally, it's ready to show you. All done and dusted. And it's not just a renovation job, because it's like 18, 20 years old. I've done a whole heap of upgrades on it, hoping to make it a better imaging Newtonian. So I'm not going to make you wait. We'll jump right into that after my intro. Sorry, I had something. And what I was going to do was a whole bunch of videos on every individual aspect of it, but having missed a bit of footage, to be honest with you, I decided just to wrap it up into a finale video and briefly go through everything I've done. So here it is. I'm Nugsy, this is Cheapass-tro. So this is how it started. This is my oldest footage of it when it still looked quite nice. But sorry about the footage, real shaky. Over the couple of years I've owned this, I've dropped it, I've scratched it, all sorts. It's just gone quite horrible. And if you watched a recent video in which I fitted a Crayford focuser to this, you'll see how many dents were over the tube, and I had to actually remove some of the dents in that video. But we'll come to that in a moment. I did promise we're going to jump straight into how it looks now. So here it comes. I think you've got to agree, that looks a whole heap better. So I've gone for the white finish because it has already had the black furniture, and that basically becomes the polar opposite of my 130 PDS, which is black with the white furniture. The tube itself has been repaired, and I did a lot of repairing on this. Car body filler I've had to use because I could not get the dents out totally by my primitive panel beating skills. So I did that, and then I went about painting the tube, and after painting that always reveals more dents, so I had to go back through another round of fillers and paint it again. And I chose not to paint with aerosol cans because I've done that with motorcycles in the past, and I've gone through so many cans, it's cost so much. I never got a good finish, so I thought I'd try something else, and I went with household gloss on a high density foam roller, and it's worked out pretty damn well. The only downside to this, it takes about 3 bloody days for each coat to dry, for the next coat to apply, so it took me weeks. But in the end it's looking nice. So that's the tube done, and looking good for it. I already did the video on fitting my focuser, but I've made changes. In the original video I had a piece of crafting foam to block the light leaks underneath this focuser, and that worked just great. However, I knew it wasn't going to stand the test of time, it wasn't going to look good over a long time. And I did mention in the video the possibility of a 3D printed solution, so afterwards I came up with said 3D printed solution. First off, I had painted it white. I had text embedded in there saying Cheapass-tro. I painted the text in black and the rest of it in white, and I did so many times with the paint, it's just the black was bleeding into the white and the white was bleeding into the black, and I got it in the end until you looked closely, and it still looked very DIY, so I ended up scrapping that. And it's not the only reason I scrapped it. Let's try again. Yeah, I wasn't 100% happy with that anyway. Not only because the writing wasn't working out well, and those sides were very thin and prone, as you see, to snapping, but the curve wasn't quite right. I had to actually sort of glue it down to make it work. So I went back to the drawing board, I Tinkercad and did it with a slightly different curve, and came out, and I decided this time there's no writing on it, I painted it black. And once I painted it black, I thought I'd put it out in the sun, and dropped it, it smashed into 3 pieces. So but on sizing it up, the curve still wasn't right, it was wrong the other way. So back in Tinkercad, recurve it, redesign the curve. I got it just perfect, and this Mark III I then fitted to the scope. I noticed if I shined light going around the focuser, there were little bits that would let a little bit of light through, so I decided then to do a thin mastic seal on the bottom and where the focuser sits into it, and that's done the job. It's perfect, there are no light leaks whatsoever, and it was big enough internally not to split the thing when I did up the focuser. So that's fitted, and that's looking good in my opinion. Then there's the focus motor. I did show this in a video once after I just got a 3D printer. It was my first invention, if you like. It's a NEMA 17 bracket, but it's adjustable, so I can just undo a thumb screw on it to slacken off the belt, unhook the belt, and that gives me then manual control of the focuser. Whereas in most cases you'd have to actually unbolt the motor to get the belt off. So I'm pretty pleased with that, and that's handy for things like star testing and planetary and what have you. So sometimes there is the need for manual focus control. And it's really easy then, you just hook the belt back over, tighten it up, and we're back onto motorized control. Now some who know about these things may question the belt going directly onto the slow control focus knob. And you're right to question it, because in most cases that won't work. On the 130 PDS that wouldn't work, but on this, the knurls on the focus knob aren't quite right, but they're close enough for most of the teeth on the belt to fit it, so there is no slippage whatsoever. I've tested. Okay, so that's the focuser and the focus motor all mounted up. I've also 3D printed a little dovetail for up front, but if I want to put a laser finder on, or I intend to try my most mini lightweight guide scope on this as well and see if it works. If it does, all the better. And if you look inside the tube, first of all you see right at the front, can't miss it, a CYCK CNC machined secondary spider. This cost me £42, and I've seen them as low as £37 on eBay, which is ridiculously cheap given that the original one of these, I won't name the company, I won't shame them, but they charge something like £150, £160 for one. And it's the same thing with a different name on it. The point of the Spider being CNC machined is to be nice and rigid and to always have that secondary mirror bang in the centre. So you're less likely to have to collimate very often. It'll just maintain secondary collimation a lot better than the original adjustable Skywatcher one, which could even be off circular and could definitely be off centre. I have used the provided flocking, the CYCK provide flocking for the Spider vanes, and I've matte blacked the rest of it, except for the bit that says CYCK up front. Now, for those of you wondering, because I was wondering and I looked it up, these are now thicker Spider vanes than the original Skywatcher one. So what difference does this make? Apparently, the thinner your Spider vanes, the more it diffracts the starlight. So the starlight will travel further but in thinner lines. Whereas if you've got thicker Spider vanes, then you'll get thicker but shorter lines as diffraction spikes. That interested me anyway, I didn't know this before. Moving on into the tube itself, I have flocked the inside, and no, I didn't get any footage of this because I couldn't do it. My arms were in there and it's just difficult. But there are many flocking videos online. I used the cheap stuff from Amazon, the A4 sheets, and I used about a dozen or so A4 sheets in this. Where the focuser and other bits and pieces are fitted, I also used blackboard paint to touch up the little nuts and bolts on the inside to make sure that they lose their shine and become dull and matte. So that's great. I mean, you look in the end of this scope now and it is just nice and dark in there. Light just gets soaked up straight away. Down to the bottom end, I have a 3D printed mirror cap on the rear, and that is to again block any way for light to get in there. This scope came with one, but it was metal and very heavy, so this is just a thin piece of plastic with cutouts to retain access to the collimation screws. But as for the mirror cell itself, I did take this out, and this is where I reveal the one thing I have not yet done for this scope, and it's probably, well, I say probably, it's definitely the most important thing of all, but I've got to get myself over to the UK to do it, and that is to get the mirror re-silvered. Now, when I bought this, the scope was 18-ish years old, and I've had it for a couple of years, and the mirror was fine to start with, but I actually damaged it. And it's not through scratching or bad cleaning or anything like that, it's through letting dew drop onto it, basically. I took it from a very cold night where there was dew all over it into a warm house and stood it up on the end with the mirror on the floor. I dried the dust cap purposely before putting it on, but dew still formed on that dust cap and dripped down onto the mirror, and it was weeks until I took it out again. And by that time the damage was done. There was water sitting on the mirror and it's made it all cloudy now. I did try washing this away, but you know, you can not really put any pressure into it, so I didn't want to try that. So yes, I think this does need resilvering. In the meantime, I'm just using it as is, because you know, I was still using it like this for well over a year in this state. While in there, this mirror actually had some mastic on the back of it. Someone had put mastic blobs. I'm pretty sure that they were sitting unevenly and causing me to not be able to collimate this properly. See, there's a weird collimation system on this. Instead of springs like you get on most Newtonians, this just has little O-rings, and in order to try and get collimation down, I would have to squeeze so tightly on one of those O-rings there was nothing left in it. And I think this might have been down to unevenness because of that mastic. I'm not sure. There was something going on anyway. So I've removed that, and I'm just relying on the little cork pads now. And I've put fatter O-rings in it. So that should give me a little bit more squish to play with to collimate this scope. I have, before it was even painted, put everything together and collimated it just to check, and it looks much more promising now. So yes, fatter O-rings. I put the mirror back in, and instead of the little metal plates over the rubber mirror clips, I have put a 3D printed primary mirror mask. And the reason for this is that the mirror clips, when you have 3 mirror clips around the outside, they can introduce some strange patterns in the diffraction on a bright star. Whereas if it's just a nice circle around it, even though it takes like a millimeter or so off the size of your mirror effectively, it makes the diffraction patterns much more even. So for pixel peepers, that's a good thing, and I just thought everyone else does it, why not? And with that in place, that all goes back in, and that completes the upgrades. So all in all, we got the tube fixed, flocked, internally blackened wherever. The secondary mirror has been blackened around the back and sides of it. The secondary spider is blackened and flocked. The focuser is a quality focuser. I paid just £60 on eBay for this. It was used, and it retails for, I think you can get them for about £250 anyway. So that was a bargain. In fact, I think I'll just list things on screen now because I can't remember as I'm narrating exactly what costs what, but there's lots of things that are a few pounds here and there, and I've got like packs of bolts and things like that to complete this job. And I must include the finishing touch to this, the little stickers. It was 7 months ago I ordered these stickers with this job in mind. That's how long it's taken me. And it was £13 for a clear sheet. It was supposed to be one sticker, but I crammed loads in on one sheet. But then of course there's like £5-6 postage on top of that, so that's nearly £20. It all adds up. These little gold cup washers, just to tidy it up. I thought with the yellow stickers and the gold on the focus knob, that would be the one. The CYCK secondary spider came with little red cup washers, and there's no way I'm going to put red on it. They just assume everyone's got a ZWO camera sticking out the arse of their focuser. So all in all, I haven't spent that much on it yet. I have spent a lot of time on it. However, I do still have to spend £200 on getting both mirrors recoated. But what I've got from this is a well sorted Newtonian, or at least I will have when the mirror's done. You will pay through the nose for a well sorted Newtonian. In fact, there's not many people do them. People like Orion Optics do, but in most cases, when you buy a Newtonian telescope, it's going to be just basic level gear on it. A basic focuser, sometimes they're a little bit better, like dual speed Crayfords, and that's fine. But they're not going to be flocked, they're not going to have your CNC spider and things like that. And if you do find such a scope, here's an example of one. it's going to set you back a fair penny. So this is my way of getting a similar thing. Alright, I haven't got a carbon tube. That would be nice, because this is still a 10 kilo scope, even though I've lost a few 100 grams from the guider recently. Somehow it still hits the scales at 10 kilos. Surely I haven't used that much paint. But not to worry, this is, you know, a future scope. I plan to get a better mount at some point in the future. I'm not going to have the EQ5 forever. And this is the thing with doing astrophotography on a budget. I can't just go out and spend like 4, 5, 6 grand on a setup straight away like a lot of people can do. And if you can, good on you. If you can't, you have to do it bit by bit, over time, and year by year I'm building up my gear. I got most of the gear I need now. I think the one thing I'm missing out on is the heavy duty mount. So that's sort of next on my list. I don't want to buy anything for astrophotography ever that costs over £500. Yeah, that's basically all I got you today. Used market, DIY, a bit at a time, over 3 years. That's why I'm sitting in an observatory here. Anyway, am I rabbiting on a bit too much now? Did I ask you for a like and a subscribe? I sure hope you do that. As small channels, we need your interaction, and we need you to actually, you know, watch the video from start to finish as well. That helps. Go on to another video afterwards. All the better. I have a few in my back catalogue. You can see how I started if you've only just caught up with me. So, all that remains to say is until next time. Thank you for watching. I'm Nugsy, this is Cheapass-tro.